Hi guys, I thought it'd be interesting today to do a video all about vocal editing. Specifically, we'll look at Melodyne, VocAlign, and all the other editing processes that I put my vocals through. I'm going to try and make this video as in-depth as possible, so it may be quite long. So feel free to use the chapter markers at the bottom of the YouTube video, and you can fast forward to the parts that interest you. Let's go. Pitch correction is a bit of a controversial subject when it comes to music recording. Lots of people rail against it and talk about how they don't want their vocals to be pitch corrected. But this is based on a myth that back before auto-tune was invented, people didn't use pitch correction. There's a very interesting article here on the Isotope website that talks about the history of pitch correction from way before we had anything like Melodyne. And it talks about how the Beatles used to use vary tape speed. In other words, they were using reel-to-reel tape machines and they could speed the tape up and slow it down in order to pull the vocals into pitch. And then by the mid-70s, we had digital hardware pitch correction machines. So pitch correction has basically always been a thing. And most of the music that we've listened to from the mid-20th century through to now has used a lot of pitch correction. I'll put a link to this article in the description. Now, the trouble with Melodyne is that it can be quite expensive. I use a lot of software in my studio for various things, for drums, my DAW, plugins, and so on. And as much as possible, I like to use reasonably cheap ones or even free ones. But unfortunately, Melodyne is something we don't have a workaround for. It just really is the best. We have no choice but to actually buy Melodyne. Now, it comes in 4 editions. There's Melodyne Essential, which is bundled in some DAWs. I actually got Melodyne Essential for free a long time ago, and then went down the upgrade path to Melodyne Assistant, which is what I use, because Melodyne Assistant has more essential tools like pitch modulation and pitch drift that I like to use a lot. The other ones I don't really feel are all that important. The polyphonic version of Melodyne, I've tried it and I don't think it works very well. And the studio version is just too much, and it's £600, we don't need it. So my advice would be, get your hands on Melodyne Essential, and if possible, wait for a Black Friday sale and upgrade it to Assistant. That's the cheapest way to get your hands on Melodyne. So what I'd like to do today is take these vocals that I've recorded. They've just been recorded. There's no editing of any description on them, and I'm going to Melodyne them. Then I will VocAlign them, and then I'll edit out all the pops and breaths and clicks in the sound. And I'll show you how I do that now. So the first thing we'd want to do is select the tracks that we want Melodyne on. Dig probably down to here. Add Melodyne to each of the tracks. Reaper uses a protocol called ARA. Some other DAWs have it as well, which means that Melodyne's far easier to use because as soon as you open your Melodyne plugin, the vocals have already been captured within the plugin. And it also means that Melodyne can control the timeline of your DAW, which is really great. Makes it a lot easier to use. So one of the things that I like to do is just have the vocal that I'm working on soloed. We can see that Melodyne identifies what pitch it thinks you sang by putting these blobs in. And we can see that these blobs are slightly off center to the notes. So let's listen to what that sounds like. We'll zoom in a wee tiny bit. Exposed and pray to the will, priorities align. So the first thing that we can try is just select that phrase and double click it. Okay, so we are in the key of D minor. So let's hear what happened with Melodyne when we double clicked. Exposed and pray to the will, priorities align. Right, so it has pitch corrected this note. Let's hear that again. That doesn't sound quite right. Now this is definitely wrong here, so let's pull this up and see. Exposed and pray to the will, priorities align. I have set up mouse modifier shortcuts on my keyboard to change the mouse for us. This one is the pitch modulation, this one is the split, and this one takes us back to normal. Now I think here, maybe there's too much vibrato and it sounds a tiny bit sharp. So let's use the pitch modulation. Exposed and pray to the will, priorities align. The vibrato's a bit wide here too, but I quite like it. This is an interesting feature here. This happens quite a lot with vocalists, where we start flat and then we go on to the note. Now, in that situation, I sometimes like to make the note a wee bit better by taking this out. What Melodyne is actually doing is looking at this note and working out what the average pitch is, and then moves the whole thing with all its pitch variations to a point where the average is in tune. But the average can be offset slightly with a glissando like this at the start. So if we take this out and then we pitch correct this note, we sometimes get a slightly better result.
Exposed and prey to the will, priorities align. Exposed and prey to the will, priorities align.
Okay, I'm happier with the sound of that now. Another thing that I like to do in Melodyne is, if you can listen, there's a pop on one of the notes.
Exposed and prey.
Okay, so here. So if we select that note, we can control the amplitude of the note here. So we could take it down slightly and see if we can get rid of that pop.
Exposed and prey.
That's slightly better.
Exposed and prey to the will, priorities align.
Let's have a look at the next phrase.
You and I are sensitive ones, forsaken and maligned.
Do we just do our standard thing and just double click the notes and then hear what Melodyne does automatically?
You and I are sensitive ones, forsaken and maligned.
We'll try and tidy up this note a bit. It's a bit wobbly. Okay, and this one sounded terrible. Whoops. And I think this one should
You and I are sensitive ones, forsaken and maligned.
Right, and on to the next phrase.
But nothing comes as close.
Right, all of that is going to pitch correct fine.
But nothing comes as close.
It's great when you get a phrase that just pitch corrects fine like that. Let's look at this one.
Scratch the surface of what you pursue.
Right, obviously flat.
Scratch the surface of what you pursue. Elusive anymore.
It didn't start right.
Elusive innermost. In scarcity.
I guess maybe.
In scarcity and in overdose.
I'm obviously singing flat quite often on this.
In scarcity and in overdose. Nothing comes as close.
Okay, so we started quite flat here. Let's see if we can pull this in.
Nothing comes as close.
We go on up.
Nothing comes as close.
Yeah, that's a...
Nothing comes as close.
Right, so we've got a big glissando here at the end, so we definitely don't want that to affect the pitch. So let's use the pitch split and leave that uncorrected and just do the rest of it.
And nothing ever will.
We have doubles. So if we select one of these doubles now, we're going to have to do the same pitch correction to those. Right, let's have a listen to the start of that now and with all the pitch correction and check that we're happy with it.
Forsaken and maligned.
Okay, so there was a couple of times where I thought the vibrato was a bit wide. Let's have a look at this Melodyne again for the lead vocal. I thought maybe that. I just thought that gliss into that note was a wee bit too artifacted. This vibrato is a bit too wide. And I think this one was as well. Good. Too wide again.
Forsaken and maligned, but nothing comes as close. Scratch the surface of what you pursue, elusive it'll.
Let's take the vibrato out of that a wee bit as well. I don't know why I sang with so much vibrato.
Scratch the surface of what you pursue, elusive innermost, in scarcity and in overdose. Nothing comes as close, and nothing.
Okay, so that one needed a wee bit too. You can see that the vibrato's not that stable. So we'll make it narrower and we'll make it slightly more stable.
In scarcity and in overdose.
Okay.
Nothing comes as close, and nothing ever will.
Okay, cool. So that's the first section of the song, Melodyne. We'll move on to the next section now. So in the first part of this section, we've got a lead vocal and two doubles that are panned left and right and are about 6 dB quieter. So let's hear them.
As we dissect our failures, the vultures gather round us. They feast their eyes upon.
So yeah, they're going sharp at times and they're going flat at times. Let's Melodyne these. So we just want to solo this vocal first. Let's zoom away in and let's see what we've got here.
As we dissect our failures.
So I'm guessing I should be singing F here, but let's just do our double click thing first. Oh, right. I've just noticed something, and this is something I like to fix before I start double clicking. This note needs separated. If we zoom in more, we can see. And Melodyne has identified it as a single note, but it actually does go down. So let's cut it, and now that makes more sense. Just select it all. I think some of these notes will be pitch corrected to the wrong note. For example, that. I'm pretty sure that should be there.
As we dissect our failures.
That should be down.
As we dissect our failures.
Let's tidy up some of the pitch drift in these.
As we dissect our failures, the vultures gather round us.
Okay, so we can see the same issue again here where I'm singing slightly sharp.
The vultures gather round us. Yeah. The vultures gather round us. The vultures gather round us. The vultures. The vultures gather round us. They feast their eyes.
Okay, so very consistently singing quite sharp here all the time.
They feast their eyes upon. They feast their eyes upon the cat. 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 They feast their eyes upon the cat.
You can sometimes lose a wee bit of focus on what pitches you're supposed to be singing when you're as bad at singing as I am.
As we dissect our failures, the vultures gather round us. They feast their eyes upon the carcass of our lives.
That sounds okay to me.
As we dissect our failures, the vultures gather round us. They feast their eyes upon the carcass of our lives.
Okay, cool. And now I'll carry on pitch correcting in this fashion. We don't have to show everything. So what I have to do is everything I do to this vocal, I'll also have to do to the doubles as well. And if I see anything interesting that I need to show you, then I'll start recording again. Okay, so I've pitch corrected this verse. Listen to it soloed first and see if the doubles sound in tune with the lead vocal.
As we dissect our failures, the vultures gather round us. They feast their eyes upon the carcass of our lives. Spectators of our downfall, we carry on regardless, in perseverance as they sharpen up their knives.
There's some sync issues, but we'll fix that with VocAlign. Let's listen to it in the track.
As we dissect our failures, the vultures gather round us. They feast their eyes upon the carcass of our lives.
Sounds far better.
Spectators of our downfall, we carry on regardless, in perseverance as they sharpen up their knives.
Okay, and so the next section now is a full stack for the chorus. So let's listen to that. We've got a lead vocal, left and right doubles, and then we've got left and right harmony and another left and right harmony.
Jading the steady hand, degrading the color and the shading, always in between the lines. Trading a trigger for attrition, the titan of ambition, never bring us peace of mind.
So that's the chorus. So let's try and start doing this vocal stack.
Jading the steady.
So this is a common enough thing that happens with vocals. This, quite often what I like to do with it is not have it so centered on a pitch.
Jading the
Sounds a wee bit more natural when you do that.
Jading the steady hand, degrading the color and the shading, the color and the shading, the color and the shade.
Yeah.
The color and the shading, always in between the lines, always in between the lines, straight the line, always in between the lines, trading a trigger for a trigger, for trading a trigger for a trigger. Trading a trigger for attrition, that's trading a trigger for attrition, the titan. Attrition, the titan. Attrition, the titan of ambition. 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 Never bring us peace. Never bring us peace. Never bring us peace of mind. Never bring us peace of mind.
Okay, so I'll do that for the doubles and the harmonies, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I went through that whole vocal stack and nothing unusual happened, just the same things as I was doing before. So it's all pitch corrected now, so this is what it sounds like pitch corrected.
Jading the the steady hand degrading, the color and the shading, always in between the lines, trading a trigger for attrition, the titan of ambition, never bring us peace of mind.
Okay, and with the track.
Shading the steady hand degrading, the color and the shading, always in between the lines, trading a trigger for attrition, the titan of ambition, never bring us peace of mind.
And now we have to do the second verse. Same thing again. If I find anything that you might find interesting, then I'll definitely stop and film it. But for now, I'll just batter on through. Right, so that's the second verse, pitch corrected. It was all pretty straightforward, nothing startling or amazing, just the usual thing. Double click things, make sure that it's identified the notes correctly. Do a couple of tiny edits after that, nothing very much. Here's what it ended up sounding like.
We're paving new direction, delete all indiscretions, remove the skies that tell the story of our games. In cultivating fiction, erase all aspiration, we batter tyranny and polish up our chains.
And with the track.
We're paving new direction, delete all indiscretions, remove the skies that tell the story of our games. In cultivating fiction, erase all aspiration, we batter tyranny and polish up our chains.
Right, and the next part of vocals that we have is this part. I suspect not much of this needs pitch correcting, but we'll have a listen anyway.
Dancing puppets in a gilded cage, volunteers feed a narcissistic rage, devoted hosts for a ravenous parasite.
Let's see if any of these actually, if they're all tuneless.
Dancing puppets in a gilded cage, volunteers feed a narcissistic rage.
That's okay. If you pitch correct them, they'll not really sound great after it. You want to keep that madness in them.
Dancing puppets in a gilded cage.
Yeah.
Dancing puppets in a gilded cage, Dancing puppets in a gilded cage, volunteers feed a narcissistic rage, devoted hosts for a ravenous parasite, find solace in the flicker of the gaslight, cheerleaders of a righteous demagoguery.
Okay. We're moving on to the next step. Let's just double check everything now before I finalize the Melodyne.
Expose the prey to the will prior, but nothing comes as close as we dissect our failure, jading the steady hand degrade.
Okay, so because Melodyne uses the ARA protocol, then we have to render the Melodyne so that we can use VocAlign, because that also uses the ARA. And one of the qualifications for an ARA plugin is that it has to be the first plugin on the signal chain. So we need to get Melodyne rendered so that we can move on to the next one. What you typically want to do is disable all any other plugins that are after Melodyne so that you can render Melodyne onto all these tracks. I've set up a button to do that on my DAW. So if I select all the tracks that I want to render the Melodyne on, and I just click this button. Now it has, if we look into some of the individual tracks now, we can see that it's turned off the RVox and the CLA vocals, and it just leaves Melodyne on, which is the case for each one of these selected tracks, which means I can now select these tracks and render them as mono files. So apply take effect to items as a new take mono output. So now all these vocals have been Melodyned, which means when I press this little button that I've made again, it now disables Melodyne on all the tracks. If I look in to one of the tracks, you can see that Melodyne is now disabled and the other tracks are now re-enabled. So I can always keep this Melodyne and come back to it at some point in the future. So these vocals are all Melodyne now, and the Melodyne has been rendered and we've got rid of Melodyne, so now we can put VocAlign onto all the tracks. So let's do it with these 3 tracks first. Let's add VocAlign. So here we have VocAlign, and if we select the track that we want to treat as the master track, which is this one, and the one that we want to align it to, which is this one, and you can see that Melodyne has now worked out exactly what to do with the secondary track to make it line up perfectly with the first one. So let's render that. And now we do the same thing with the other double. So I'm getting all these doubles into VocAlign, and I'm getting VocAlign to match them up perfectly. And then we just render it. So now we should have a situation where these doubles are very tightly time aligned to the lead vocal. Let's check them.
But nothing comes as close.
Cool.
Nothing comes as close, and nothing ever will.
Awesome. So let's do that for the next part of the song as well. So we want to select these three vocals, insert VocAlign. So we open VocAlign. So this is our lead, and this is our double, and we render it. And the same with this one.
As we dissect our failures, the vultures gather round us. They feast their eyes upon the carcass of our lives. Spectators of our downfall, we carry on regardless, in perseverance as they sharpen up their knives. Jading the steady hand, degrading the color and the shading, always in between. Trading a trigger for attrition, the titan of ambition, never bring us peace of mind. We pave a new direction, delete all indiscretions, remove the skies that tell the story of our games. In cultivating fiction, erase all aspiration, we batter tyranny and polish up our chains.
Right, so VocAlign did a fantastic job there. The vocals are now sounding very tight. I don't believe that the backing vocals need to be VocAligned. That slight bit of looseness helps differentiate the backing vocals from the lead vocals. So I think I'm happy enough to proceed to the next part of the song with this. We go to these rough vocals now. I didn't pitch correct them, but I do sort of feel that maybe they could benefit from VocAlign.
Dancing puppets in a gilded cage, volunteers feed a narcissistic rage, devoted hosts for a ravenous parasite, find solace in the flicker of the gaslight, cheerleaders of a righteous demagoguery, submit unto absolute loyalty. If I drowned every rat that's going down with me, we build it to the heavens or we burn it to the ground.
Actually, on second thought, I don't even think that actually needs it. So the final step for me in editing the vocals is taking out all the noise from when you're not singing. So these are noises from your mouth, pops and clicks, and breath noises and so on. There are a few plugins that you can use to do this, like de-breath and de-pop and de-click and stuff. And I've tried all these, and in principle they seem like they would be time-saving, but I have never found them to be time-saving, because when you apply that effect, then you have to listen to all the vocals and make sure that it's working and tweak it if it's not. And it's just as quick for me just to manually edit all the vocals. So that's what I do. So with the vocals soloed, we're going to play through and just take out any noise and edit anything that we think needs edited. So you get headphone bleed as well.
Expo.
Okay, so I'll take it to about here and then fade in the breath. Let's hear what that sounds like.
Exposed and pray
Perfect.
to the will, priorities align.
Right, and then we're going to have to cut that.
You and
Fade in that breath.
I are sensitive ones, forsaken and maligned, but nothing.
Okay, so these ones here. Sometimes you might need to solo the individual vocals, but
nothing.
and sometimes I take the breaths out completely on the backing vocals.
But nothing comes as close. Scratch close. Scratch this close. Scratch the surface of what you pursue. Elusive.
Right, that's a noise there that I really don't like.
Elusive.
So always try to take that out.
Elusive innermost. In scarcity and in overdose. Nothing comes. Nothing comes as close, and nothing ever will. As we dissect our failures, the vultures gather round us. They feast their eyes upon the carcass of our lives. Spectators of our downfall, we carry on regardless, in perseverance as they sharpen up their knives, jading the steady hand, degrading the color and the shading, always in between the lines, trading a trigger for attrition, the titan of ambition, never bring us peace of mind. We pave a new direction, the games in cultivating fiction, erase all aspiration. We batter tyranny and polish up our chains. Dancing puppets in a gilded cage, volunteers feed a narcissistic rage, devoted hosts for a ravenous parasite, find solace in the flicker of the gaslight, cheerleaders of a righteous demagoguery, submit unto absolute loyalty. If I drowned every rat that's going down with me, we build it to the heavens or we burn it to the ground.
Okay, and the one last thing to do, now that we've got everything all edited, is put the copy and pasted choruses where they should be. Do we got a chorus here? Does it start on a bar line? Yeah. To copy this chorus and drag it over to here and line it up properly.
Shading the steady hand, degrading the color.
And then we're reusing these vocals here as well. at the end.
Expose the brain to this of what you
Okay, now we can get a listen to the whole song. Alright, cool. So that's how I Melodyne, edit and VocAlign vocals. One thing that you'll notice here is that sometimes I Melodyne things and sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I VocAlign things and sometimes I didn't. It's very important to use your ears and decide what's appropriate and what's not. Because I've got an ethos that if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. Always apply these things as a solution to a problem. If the problem's not there, then don't just automatically apply them. It sounds nice when there's a bit of difference, especially when you're stacking vocals. If they're all perfectly in tune, then it becomes sterile sounding. So you need some of these tiny differences. So if something sounds in tune, accept that it's in tune and don't pitch correct it. Just pitch correct the things that sound a bit out to you. And the same with VocAlign. In those harsher vocals, I thought the feeling of more people singing was better than just sort of crushing them all down to have exactly the same timing so that it sounded like one vocal. But that's it. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks so much, guys. Like and subscribe and let me know what you think. And if you have any questions and any videos you want me to make, let me know and I'll be happy to help. You guys rock.